Pardon me while I have a strange interlude. There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art. Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and today's program is brought to you by Sam's Prismatic Clown Noses. If you want to be a clown and you want to have all of the colors, Sam has the perfect clown nose for you. So if you're in the market for a new clown nose, typically all the ones that are available are red. Red is classic, it's traditional, we all like that, but the prismatic clown nose is made of a material from another dimension that actually has all of the colors, every conceivable color, and only Sam has this product on the market. So look up Sam's Prismatic Clown Noses for all your all colorful needs. And on today's show, that's a great sponsor to have because you may have heard on the news recently a certain section of weirdo will be really excited about this in Forteana and UFOs and people that are interested in these subjects. Sam the Sandown Clown looms large as a story that everybody wishes they had more info about. And very recently there was a presentation on the Isle of Wight from Paul A.T. Wilson. He's a writer, he's an artist, storyteller, a folklorist, historian of the Isle of Wight and the pre-medieval stuff and the folklore and the pagan beliefs there. But he is the one that gave this presentation and got the real scoop on further Sandown Clown sightings. So I absolutely had to reach out to him and realized when I did that I actually used to follow him on Twitter before we both abandoned that platform.
before it became a hellscape.
Yeah. And under the Sacred Isle, I used to read the posts on that site, and I've referenced it before in my own blog posts. So very happy to have him here. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. What a grandiose entrance. You could have just say professional liar.
Yep.
That's my dad. Whenever anyone asked my dad what I did for a living, he used to say, "Oh, he tells lies and he draws cartoons." he meant it in the nicest possible way.
Right. Well, it is interesting too because in an interview with you on one of the news stories, I think there was a quote, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, that there's various versions of history that are it's all history, but it's all remembered differently depending on who you're talking to.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, when nothing's made up, it's remembered differently, and that's right. Yeah, that turn of phrase was coined by a friend of mine, and I absolutely love it. It's just it sums things up, particularly storytelling and the art of purveying, if that's the right word, these, whether it's urban legends or ancient folklore or religion or whatever. There's it's like fandom, and you have people say, oh well, is that canon or not? And I've always thought, what, either all is canon or none of it. See, all of it's real or none of it's real. I always err to the side that it's all real.
Right. Yeah, it's more fun that way. And
yeah,
I've talked about that before with like comic book characters like Batman or
Yeah,
Superman, they've been around for 75, 80 years. They're going to go
yeah,
through a lot of iterations. So who's going to really decide what's canon and what's not,
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And that is interesting to think about from a folklore perspective and having a background in history is because a lot of strange tales like Sam the Sandown Clown and UFOs, ghost
Mm.
stories, cryptid stories, they're kind of there's always that delicate balance between the two where there's verifiable things, but the story itself is so good you don't want to lose it.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep the story sort of centered, centered on the story. And I mean, um, like anything, you can go down a rabbit hole and try and um, disprove it or prove it or anything, whichever way you want to go. But I've always um, been of the opinion that I just want to know more. And I mean, this is a story that has intrigued me for most of my life, even before it was something that people really knew about. It was something that um, uh, I was told about sort of in the late 70s, early
Mhm.
80s by my dad. We were walking. Um, we used to go on these walks, and so I was originally from the Isle of Wight. We moved away, and every so often we come back to see my grandparents, my great grandparents, and part of that was we go on these walks. And one day we went for a walk um, around a place called Lake Golf Course, and we'd walked there before. And he said, and then he told me this story, and it was spellbinding and terrifying. I had nightmares afterwards, but I was kind of hooked, and I've been hooked ever since. And it's been one of those things that, although not obsessively in the front of my mind, it's always sort of scratching at the back of your head.
Yeah, yeah,
And um, over the years, I'd delve and dig, and and lots of false starts, I have to say, over the years. Um, and yeah, so but it's something that's kind of like been a constant itch that I've always
yeah.
tried to scratch.
Yeah, because I mean, for most everybody else, and especially here in the States, I think this was a very obscure story that very few people knew about. The
Mm.
only source most people can point to as containing the story is in the British UFO Research Association, or I hope I got that right.
Before,
Yeah,
before,
the
yeah.
before 1978 um,
Mm.
inaugural issue there, or the first issue of the year, the January February one. Um,
That's right. Yeah, yeah. That's where everyone gets their information from. There actually was a previous publication that the story went out in before.
okay.
Um, but I have a copy of that, but no one ever references that. They just use the before one. So all the details that everyone uses is all from that, or a derivation of that. So you'll have people who have picked up the story from someone else who's picked it up from before it. So and
Okay.
and so you do get these reports on it that are variations on the original. And that's kind of what storytelling is all about, isn't it? The story needs to live. But yes, all references seem to all lead back to the before article, whereas my information does not.
Yeah. I mean, you got it straight from the source, I guess. So,
Yeah, yeah. So over the years, um, uh, people had got in contact. I've been involved in sort of the folklore world for many years. I became a professional writer about what is it, 2025? So about 20, no, 30 years ago, 1995. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jeez. Um, uh, yeah, my first article I ever wrote was an interview with Depeche Mode
Oh
for
wow.
Time Out magazine. That's a whole other story. um, but uh, but yes, I've been a professional writer for a long time, and um, but I've always had this sort of real keen um, interest in folklore and storytelling, and funnily enough, sort of um, Catholicism and because they kind of go hand in hand, Christianity and Catholicism and that medieval period, which was just so rich in mythology and weirdness, and
Yeah.
it was a and I still find that sort of um, that lushness still interesting. I'm by no means uh, religious or in that sense, or a practicing Catholic. I was brought up a Catholic, but not no longer a practicing Catholic. But I still find the idea of the Catholic Mass and things like that just a very unctuous thing, and that I think it's all related.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yes, I've always had this kind of interest, and uh, and over the years had several sort of false starts. As I said, a couple of people who claimed to be Fae, getting in contact, and um, it wasn't until just before COVID that I think my brain is a little bit hazy on the dates. COVID's
Right.
one of those weird things, isn't it? It feels like it was yesterday, but it also feels like it was about 150 years ago, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
just
I often say
strange.
time isn't real. Like COVID really
Yeah,
warped time, and then nobody has a real sense of time anymore. So
exactly. So anyway, it was sort of about just before COVID when someone contacted me, and out of all the people who claimed to be Faye, she was the only one who handed me actual evidence.
okay. Now, just for clarity for listeners, where Faye is the assumed name or the pseudonym being
That's
used
right, a pseudonym. Yes,
for the young
correct.
girl that was involved in the original story. And
Yes, and definitely
yeah,
not her name.
but just for
So,
clarity, so people don't think that like a goblin or a leprechaun was reaching out to you. Um,
no,
the
no,
fairy folk, And I always
no,
thought it was
no.
funny that that was the name used because there is kind of like a almost like an otherworldly, almost fairy tale quality to it. So to be
Yeah,
named
well, the whole
Faye was pretty great. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that this story is captured the imagination of people is because it has that otherworldliness to it. That
yeah.
weirdness and that strange sort of oddity. Um, and as I was saying to you earlier before you started recording, the family has never looked for fame or to profit for any of this.
Hmm.
Even after all these years, there is just never been that. So it's always that has always fascinated me a little bit as well because they've absolutely held on to that anonymity through the whole thing. But yeah, so as I said, it wasn't until then that someone actually came to me who had some actual evidence to back up who they were,
Okay.
and um, and made all the difference.
Yeah.
As I said, I've interviewed probably 4 or 5 bays in inverted commas over the years, and this one was the only one that had actual evidence to show me. And I was like, okay, I mean, I can't be 100% sure,
Right, right,
The stuff that she showed me could have fallen in her lap, and or it could be an elaborate hoax. It didn't look like it, didn't feel like it.
right.
Um, uh, it didn't read like it.
Okay.
She's put a hell of a lot of work into something and aged things,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
all to fool some idiot. It
Right,
takes a lot
right.
of work.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was to embarrass you, you deal in folklore anyway. Like it's a
Yeah,
you're only
it's
interested in the story, like for the most part. But
exactly. Yeah, I mean,
this is an
even
exciting kind of yeah, all of this is exciting to me. Like all of this idea that after all these years, we know a little bit more. You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, even if it has been an elaborate hoax, what a great story.
Yeah. Oh
How
yeah.
fabulous would that be? But you know, as I said, and I said this in my talk, I can't be 100% sure,
Hmm.
but I want to believe, um, and the stuff is compelling.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do we want to walk through the initial story as printed by Bufora? Just for any listeners, we'll do a quick recap because there's whole hour-long shows you can find online that people that have covered
Yes.
this before. And the original Bufora magazine is not hard to find online. There are PDFs
No, no,
everywhere.
no.
Yeah, but
The so in my talk, I actually read out the original um, story that was the what we'll call Mr. Y. His
mhm,
he went by Mr. Y. What he actually hand wrote out, his handwritten notes. So I actually read that out, and it's got more detail than what was in the Bufora story. But the Bufora story, at a very top level, the two children had gone out. They were about 7 years old. Um, I think the boy's slightly younger, but both of them basically seven. And they'd gone for a walk around a place called Lake, which is very near Sandown. And they were then walking up um, uh, a part where there's a gate where you can walk up, and there's a on the left hand side there's uh, an airport, or as he calls it, the aerodrome.
mhm,
Um, and there's a little brook that runs up there. And as they're walking up there, they hear this noise, and they're going over a bridge that goes over this brook. And underneath the bridge, they see this hand, and
yep,
they look down, and there's this weird clown-like person with a book. The book falls in the water, and he fumbles in the water trying to find it. And the kids run off, and the 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 creature goes into a little hut, pulls out a speaker, and starts speaking to them. And even though they were quite far away, they could hear him like right in their ears. So
yeah,
it wasn't like a loudspeaker. So the way it's written in the before is it's like a loudspeaker, but actually in the notes they hear it in their ears, right? So
huh,
it's like he's just talking right at like he's there, but
right,
even though he's quite far away. And he sort of says the famous lines of "Hello, are you still there? Um,
hmm,
I'm uh, I'm all colors Sam." And they he invites them into his hut, and they go inside this, like it's like a workman's hut, and it's like a multi-dimensional thing. When they go in, there's a subterranean part. It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and there's this strange wallpaper, this interdimensional wallpaper.
yeah.
And they
I've joked
uh,
before that it must be a TARDIS. It's a
yeah, it's the same sort of concept, I guess.
yeah.
And there's it was kind of sparsely Um, for there's kind of a chairs and a table, and there's an electric heater there to keep him warm. And um, anyway, he's and his uniform was sort of tattered. Um, and he's sort of hiding out from people. He says, that he's not very strong, and so he's worried that people will hurt him. So and he's not very strong. And the little girl said um, that she thought he looked strong enough, but he seems like a non-violent. He's a pacifist type person. They
Hmm.
have this conversation, and he does this weird magic trick with a berry. He puts a berry in his ear, and it rolls around in his head, and they see it go past his eyes, and it pops out of his mouth, and he
Yeah.
turns I can't remember what it is. He turns a stone into a seagull or something like that. And he
Hmm.
does some these weird magic tricks and things, and then their time is up and they leave, and um they no, and I don't think this was in the before um um report, but they said that there were some workmen there, but they didn't they acted like nothing was there, like there was nothing
Right.
there. Um, and there was a notebook that Sam was using to sketch and draw things out and write on, and he dropped it in the water, and he gave it to Faye, take with her. And they stopped as they were running back home. They stopped a groundskeeper, and they said, "We just saw a ghost." And he laughed at them, and they went home. And then about a month later, or a few weeks later, she confessed to her father about this whole thing. And that's kind of the story that everyone knows.
Yep.
Um, and the father had actually had some encounters with UFOs as well that he recounts. Um, he had let me have a quick look here, my notes. Um, so he had, yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six. He's had uh, six-ish encounters um, over the years. Um, they were kind of summarized in the article as well.
Hmm.
Not all of them. I think maybe three of them were. Um, but yeah, so it's a very strange and interesting um, story, and the kids drew the original pictures of Sam, and I've got all those original pictures, those original drawings by the kids.
Nice.
Um, that have never been published. These are
Huh.
things that have never been published before. Um, and yeah, and then Faye went on to describe four other encounters she had with Sam over the years that have never
Yeah.
been reported on.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so this is the really exciting stuff for people that know the story because, like I said, it's so strange because it's almost like Mr. Y's initial UFO sightings were the only reason he would have been talking to before anyway, because there is no UFO in the Sam
No,
story. There's nothing
it's
flying.
no, and it doesn't fit. To me, it feels very otherworldly, very you know, what we'd say sort of elvish, or to
Hmm.
do with the other people, or the
Hmm.
somewhen, the place, that the other place,
Right.
that, or in modern observation, maybe interdimensional or something like that. And the other encounters, they kind of touch on it in that initial contact when they go into the shed. It's almost like going to a different place.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
And the family wasn't from the Isle of Wight. I think they were vacationing there originally, right?
no, no, no,
Or,
they were from the Isle of Wight.
oh, okay, they lived there. All right.
So yeah, somehow that seems to have crept into the story, but no, that's absolutely not. No, they're absolutely an Isle of Wight family.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm not sure where that came from, but a lot of people seem to think that they were on holidays, but no, it would.
yeah.
But no, they were definitely islanders.
Okay. All right. So, so when the real Fae, or what we suppose who we suppose to be the real Fae, came to you,
Mm,
she had four other encounters with him over the years.
correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So she had one when she was. Let me grab my notes. So she had one in 1982 when she was 16. Um, and she said it was about 10 to 12 minutes long. She'd been working at a local horse stable, a part-time job, to earn money. And it was spring, I think. And she was on her way home. She'd go catch the bus back to Sandown. And as she was walking along there, uh, Sam appeared to her, and this time he had what she describes as uh, like a flute or a whistle with buttons on it,
Okay.
and he could use it to make patterns and draw shapes in the air.
Hmm.
Um, and she said that she finds it impossible to describe what it was, but it was like moving chalk drawings. So you
Huh.
see people draw on concrete with chalk.
Right. Right.
They may make these elaborate things. That's kind of what she described it as, but they were moving and they were in the air.
Hmm.
And she said it wasn't frightening or anything like that. Um, she said there was a faint buzz, and the world sort of shimmered and floated in front of her. And he spoke to her and he said, she said his voice was clearer now because it was kind of very robotic when
Yeah.
she was a child. It's clearer now, like he'd learned more, or or the equipment was working better, or whatever it was. And he said, "I've been keeping my eye out for you." He said, and he said, "I'm very happy we made friends." And then she didn't she didn't really know what to say to him. And he said, "Things are fixed now. I don't have to hide or forage." And then she asked what he meant, but he didn't elaborate. So there's this running theme that he will say things
Yeah.
that may not necessarily make any sense. And when she asked him to elaborate, he kind of got onto the next thing, and he doesn't.
Right.
And so this is the thing that I found through consistent through the whole thing, is this odd way of communicating.
Now, this is
Um,
occurring at a bus stop. Is this a populated area, or is it kind of like near a horse
it's
stable that's
it's
fairly
yeah,
remote?
it's in the countryside. It's like a country
Okay.
lane, and there's sort of woodland around. But yeah, basically at a bus stop,
Right.
or just before the bus stop,
Yeah.
Um, and then she then said, I need to go catch my bus now because the family would worry where she is. And he just nods and he says, "I'll see you again." And he says, and this is, she said, she remembers this clearly. He said, "I'll see you again 4 more times if you want. Travel safely."
Hmm.
And then he turned and he hopped off with his hopping gait and disappeared into the shrubs.
Hmm.
And he still had the whistle in his hand, and she caught the bus and went home. Um,
Did Did you happen to ask if he had gotten a change of clothing in that 9 or 10 years? Was he still dressed the same with the raggedy
uh,
clothes? And
she said, uh, tall, exactly as she remembered him, same strange clothing, though less tattered now, the
Okay.
same paper white face, the same painted on features that gave him a grin without emotion.
Okay.
That was her that's her words, her actual
Yeah.
words so what I'm reading you here is the transcript of, so I'm just plucking
Right.
bits out of the transcript that
Yeah.
she said. So they're her actual words. The same with the quotes, that they're her actual words. Um, and So then the next encounter was in 1983. So a year later, um, this time it was in the summer. She was 17. She'd gone to meet friends at a local park. Um, and I know the park well. And there were concrete benches there for people to sit on, and they were sort of sitting around, being teenagers, drinking, and you know, cheap cider and cheap beer, and sort of smoking cigarettes, and this is the thing that struck me. She said one of her friends had stolen half a bottle of sherry from their mum's cupboard, and everyone
Hmm.
passed it around and hated it except for her. She
Was
said
it
she
like
didn't
cooking
touch it.
sherry or?
I guess so. I don't know,
Yeah.
because it's these little details that I don't think you'd get if someone was just making this stuff up. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like little weird stuff, like the sherry being passed around. Like, okay, that doesn't really add anything to the story, but you know, she said she was stone cold sober. She said she hadn't touched anything. Um, uh, she said, this is what she said. She remembers the taste of nothing on her tongue, but then she smelt the scent of earth and burnt leaves. So that
Hmm.
suddenly happened. Um, and she said then without a sound or warning, she wasn't there anymore, but she was. So she was still at the benches, still at the park, but the park was different. So it was the same layout, same trees, same benches. Her friends were all gone. And she said the place had been overlaid with something unseen. The colors were deeper, the shadows were longer, and the silence was complete. That's her words.
Hmm.
Um, she said it was like reality had been turned down, not not turned off, softened. She calls it, and
Huh.
um, and then there was a pathway, and then Sam was standing there in the center of the path. He looked much as she remembered. She said, tall, thin, paper white face. Um, but this time he was not alone. She said there were others, figures that looked like him, tall, strange, but they were difficult to focus on. Some wore clothing like his, odd patchwork garments stitched in um, unplaceable fabrics. Others shimmered slightly like heat, like a heat shimmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said they didn't speak, but they chatted, not in English, and it wasn't even a sound. It was like voices heard through a pane of thick water, she said.
Hmm.
So when you if you go into a swimming pool and you hear all the chattering, all the kids and everything, and it's that it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's kind of how um she said language without meaning is what she said from her perspective.
Right. Right.
And then she said she saw doorways, um not not in the ordinary sense, but tall freestanding shapes, openings that seemed to show glimpses of other places. One showed something green and bright. The other had what looked like stars behind it. Another simply shimmered like a sheet of mercury in the air.
Hmm.
Sam approached her gently. Um, his movements were smooth and uh, and he said, I'm glad you're here. You are doing well, that's what he said. Again, she didn't know what to say. She was overwhelmed. She wasn't afraid or anything. She just didn't really know. And then he led her past doorways, not into them, but near enough that she could sense each one held something different. He showed her things, not visions exactly, but impressions. She couldn't remember them all. She couldn't remember them all later. Some felt joyous, others cold, but one stuck with her. A view of the earth from far above, distant and glowing blue. And then another, Europe, whole, without borders, without barbed wire, is what she said. So this is 1983, right? So
Hmm.
center of the Cold War.
Right, right, yeah.
Um, she said she didn't know what to ask, but Sam answered anyway. And he said, "The world will not end in your lifetime," he said. "There will be no nuclear war, and Europe will not be so split for long." And then he then said, "This is the second time. I told you there would be four more if you wish it." And she asked, why her? And he said nothing. He just nodded slowly. And then it was over. There was no sound, no energy, just, it was like bang,
All of a
over.
sudden, she's back with her friends.
Yeah. And she looked at them and they were still continuing on. And she said, "How long was I gone?" And they just laughed at her. They said, "What are you talking about? You've just been sitting here, you
Yeah,
know."
right.
And they said, "You must have had too much to drink or whatever." And then she just sort of let it pass. But to her, it seemed like a whole bunch of time. But to them, they didn't even recognize that there'd been anything happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and that is fascinating too, because I think in the original, or well, in the before account, there is a reference to something Sam said about there being others like him.
mhm.
He's being kind of coy and cryptic, or maybe just not communicating properly about what exactly he is. He says like,
Yeah,
"I'm not really a ghost, but I'm kind of like a ghost," and then he's
yeah.
like,
I'm
"Uh,
not a
uh,
ghost, but kind of am. Yeah, I sort of am.
"Yeah," and he's like,
Yeah,
"But there's others like me. I'm not the only one. So
yeah,
it's kind of this is an opportunity to get a glimpse of some of these others and possibly where they come from or how they travel through like these portals or doorways that she mentions. Yeah.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so the next one was in 1984. So she's 18 now. Um, and it's kind of winter, cold and drab. And the main town on the island is called Newport, and she traveled to Newport to go see her boyfriend who lived there. And I'm not going to give the roads away because
Mhm.
it'd be just on the off chance that someone could use that to kind of backtrack. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm going to be as vague as I can, but with but by giving enough information. So she was walking in and there was a cut through that she could take, sort of down a back alley that would take her straight to um, her boyfriend's road. So she started going down that road, but then she stopped for some inexplicable reason and turned around and walked a different way. And as she walked that way, all of a sudden, Sam just sort of walked out from behind a fence.
Mhm.
Um, but he wasn't hopping like he had before. He was walking, and this is different. This is a bit different. So she describes him differently. So she says, um, what did she say? His appearance startled her. She said, his tall figure, slightly stooped, still looking out of place in this world. He was dressed more normally, and he didn't appear to have the alabaster complexion. He appeared more human, and his mannerisms and speech patterns were more like a normal person. That's what she says.
Wow. So he's like
So,
slowly becoming human, or something
well,
very
in
similar.
this encounter, yeah,
Yeah.
he says I don't have much time. He said, I'm using up one of my visits, is what he said. And she asked what he meant, and he said, I know where you're going to see the boy you shouldn't. And then he said, just turn around, just go home. That is all, please. And then he stepped away and he was gone. So she ended up doing that. And then it turned out that later that night, her boyfriend, and one of his friends got arrested for trying uh, to rob a. I'm not going to say what it was because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but an establishment. They tried to
Right.
rob this place, and so it was like he'd warned her to keep her out of trouble. Um, and then the last encounter that she had was in 1989. So she was 24 now. This one lasted a lot longer. She was about to leave the island. She just got married, and they were off to start their new life. Um, she said they didn't have a honeymoon. He had a job on the mainland, and they were going straight to their new gigs, and they were
Yeah.
going to um, and they were staying at a friend's place before they left, and she went out for a walk to sort of like she said she often did, which tracks with everything that she talks about. She's gone out for a walk, and as she went out for a walk, um, again, there's like odd little bits in here. She talks about how um, uh, there was a fish pond that had been filled in, and it kind of adds nothing to the story, but she talks about these little bits and pieces
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, as she's walking along, she said she saw a hut that she'd never seen before. Now, there was a type of train called an intercity express that we used to have, and at the time they looked pretty futuristic. They kind of bit aerodynamic,
Hmm.
um, and she said that it almost looked like an intercity express train, long, white, and oddly sleek. The roof was corrugated iron, the yeah, roof
Like
was
rippled
cor-
so that the rain can run off.
yeah,
Sort of. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So corrugated iron, slightly bowed. The whole structure seemed out of place, as though it had been dropped into the landscape. Um, and Sam was waiting there. He stood outside the hut exactly as she remembered. This time, his face was painted again, and he was in odd um, his odd clothing, not like before.
Hmm.
And he said, "Come in for tea." They invited her in for tea. Um, and they went inside. There was a table, two chairs, a strange device like a kettle, but not a kettle. Cups were made of soft material like porcelain, but pliable in her fingers.
Mm.
They sat. He poured tea. She said it smelt of herbs, but she couldn't name them. She said it was sweet, but it wasn't tea. They spoke for a while, and he said, um, she said, much of what he said faded quickly from memory, not by choice, but she called it a soft forgetting, like
Mm.
walking from a like waking from a vivid dream. She said. She said some things stayed. He told her the Berlin Wall would fall, and um, she remembered thinking that's impossible. Must be one of his riddles.
Right.
Um, he said, "This is the last time you'll see me until the end."
Huh.
Um, and finally, she said, and this when she finally asked him where he was from, and he said, "I'm from this place, but different." And that was it. There were no visions or anything like that. She said, they stepped outside. It was now the afternoon. She said goodbye. He raised his hand, um, and waved. She walked back, and when she went back, she looked around. The hut was gone, and that was it. And she's never seen Sam since.
Wow. But she still got one more at the end, I guess. That's
At
ominous.
the end, yeah, at the end.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I kind of got chills there for a second thinking about like the end. Like I'll see you at the end,
Mm.
especially with the state of the world these days. The end of
Yeah,
what, Sam?
yeah. Well, I mean, she did. He did say that there'd be no nuclear war, in her lifetime. So,
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
right, right. Well, because you have to wonder if the end is personal to her, like her personal end of life, or the end of all, you know. Um, so
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
that's what's worrying me, I guess. But he does, she alluded to him kind of speaking in riddles. Did she always feel that that was the case with him, that there was some deeper meaning to what he said that needed to be deciphered?
yeah. Well, I mean, the way she spoke, he didn't necessarily. He she'd ask him things, but wouldn't necessarily get an answer. you
Mhm.
know, um, so it's kind of, I think tricky. So yeah, I don't know whether he deliberately spoke in riddles or if that's just his way of communicating.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of got the sense that, he's from another place or a different version of the same place, the the Isle, it's a um, slightly damped down version of it in another spectrum, somewhere else
Mm,
on the spectrum of realities, and the way he speaks is perfectly sensible to him, but
yeah,
it's not coming through. It's not coming across the way we perhaps would want it to. He's not. It doesn't seem clear to us, but there probably is a way to decipher it. But he's not intentionally making a riddle, so it's hard to find the key.
yeah, exactly.
It- yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. Um,
Yeah,
so these transcripts are the result of you sitting down to interview her. Did you record the interview and
correct.
transcript? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. But
And
she under the proviso that I'd never release them.
yes, oh yeah, of course.
So
Yeah, and I mean, I thought when I had invited you on the show, you had made it a point to mention that we'd like to keep the identity private. Like they do want the privacy, the whole family, but they
yeah,
specifically, we don't want people like trying to hunt her down because she obviously doesn't want to be known, but she wants the story. I mean, it feels like a gift, really, that she gave you the story so that you could tell it, and it's a gift for all of us that are
yeah. I
interested,
mean, it's something that I never thought I'd have the chance to find out about. What I mean. Or have the chance to uh, tell
Yeah,
because it's her story to tell.
yeah, and I
Um,
mean, you had heard it by way of your father as a kid, right?
yeah.
Um, where did he hear it from? I'm curious. Was it
Oh,
was it was there talk around town about it, or was it known locally in that region?
no, it's it really didn't get any traction until probably the last sort of 10 years, maybe a bit less.
Okay, all right.
Um, so no, he found out about it from Bufora, which he had a subscription to.
Oh, okay.
So
All right. The same way we all did.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
was curious if well, I didn't want to assume that your father was a flying saucer enthusiast, but yeah, I was
Very,
thinking maybe
very.
he had heard it from somebody at the golf course or something.
My dad was very, very interested in all sorts of strange and wonderful things. He had books upon books upon books. I used to devour these things. The unexplained and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
those sorts of. And you remember that TV program In Search of
yeah.
with Leonard Nimoy and yeah. We used to sit
Right.
down and watch that together.
Great,
Um,
great. Yeah,
they'd watch. I think it was like a Saturday night. Maybe it was no, it was a Sunday night. It was a Sunday night they used to show it, and they'd show it completely. They'd repeat it all the time, but we'd sit down and watch it because Sunday families, we'd have a sort of a family roast on a Sunday, and then Sunday evening, Dad and I'd sit down and we'd watch this eating sort of cheese sandwich, because
Yep.
you don't really want too much, and I've just got these vivid memories of sitting there watching In Search of,
Yeah,
um, and uh, any of those sort of mystery things that would come on. We'd be straight on it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's great. Um, okay. Well, beyond that, though, so you had alluded to earlier, and I didn't press it at the time, but earlier on, you mentioned some artifacts that Faye had as well, or some items from the time.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
was like
So
evidence to you that it was legitimate. But what if you don't, at the risk of asking something that you don't want to answer?
yeah. Well, she brought out a massive box,
Okay.
and in the box were documents and the original handwritten letters to um, Bufora, to the MOD UFO office, to all those sort of um, I think 50, 60 pages worth of stuff. And
Oh wow.
yeah, and so uh, she let me copy them. So I had to race back home and pick up my scanner.
Yeah.
My you see that printer there?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like big brother printer. I had to come back and get that and take that down, and she let me scan all the documents. Um, so yeah, so that's
Okay.
that's what sold it for me. Um,
Great.
and just let me just show you something. Let me share my screen
Yeah.
quickly, and I can show you a few bits and pieces.
All right.
Um, some of it. So this was from the talk I did, so I don't mind sort of showing. So on the left hand side of the screen, you can see full report 1972
Hmm.
report from Isle of Wight for the attention of Mr. N. Oliver, blah 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 blah. So that's and what we got here. Um, so my original report of the incident. Um, Here's some of the handwritten notes that he did. Here's some of the original drawings. You can see them
Yeah.
there. Oops. So here's original correspondence. Here's original handwritten letters. You can see all that sort of stuff. So this that was the sort of stuff that she showed me, and there's much more of this that I I'm not put in this. Um, but that's the stuff that made me. I was like, oh, okay, right, yeah, this feels legitimate to me.
Well, right, because in order to fake it, she'd have had to, um, like you said, like age the paper, make it appear that it was 50 years old, or you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. and it's been written, and the handwritten stuff is written with a fountain pen, not with an
Hmm.
actual ballpoint. Um, but yeah, there's as I said, there is a lot more, but that's just sort of what I shared in the talk, um, and that's what uh, when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, there's some legitimacy here.
Yeah, it certainly does. And beyond that, did you have a sense of what made her decide to come forward with the new material?
Yes, but I can't say.
Okay. Look, clearly she
I
trusted
I
you with it, which is
I
great.
know exactly why she did, but I can't
Okay.
say.
All right. But as I had said before, she trusted you with it, which has got to be a nice feeling, especially
Yeah,
having been such an interest in it for such a long time. Uh,
yeah. I mean, it kind of came out of the blue as well,
yeah.
and it was the weirdness about it was that I'd been on a podcast where we there was like a whole bunch of folklorists, and we all picked our favorite stories,
Mhm.
and I picked this one to talk about. And I said, I've been trying to find the I've been trying to find the girl um forever, you know,
Mhm.
and lo and behold, a month later, contact was made. It was
Yeah.
very, very strange. It was like the
Yeah. I mean,
stars aligned.
I guess sometimes it just works that way. It's really
Yeah,
strange. For people that do these sorts of investigations or even just research into strange stories, I mean, I think a lot more than let on have these kinds of experiences where things just seem to line up. And it's just
yeah,
fortuitously like right at the moment when you're really looking into something, it falls into your lap, you know?
yeah, and it's the right time, and it's something that, but I've sat on this for a very long time, just not knowing what to do with it.
Yeah, because
Um,
you end up in a quandary, I think, where I mean, you're very adamant about maintaining the privacy that you promised her, which
mm,
is honorable. And I think a lot of people don't realize, a lot of consumers of strange stories, we'll put it that way, people that listen to the shows, and uh, this is especially directed to those that cruelly snipe from the comment section on YouTube with these stories. Um, you're not entitled to anybody's story. You're entitled to what they want to
no,
share. Like.
no. I think once it's shared, absolutely, you're entitled to use that and talk about it, but you're only entitled to what's in the public domain.
Right.
And I've I've been very in my talk. I was very careful not to use exact dates or exact locations. So Faye gave me a map, and on that map it shows their exact route that they took from their house or from her house to the golf course and through the golf course. But I couldn't use that because it showed exactly where they were,
Yeah.
where they were. So I didn't use that
Right.
bit, although she doesn't live there anymore. But by virtue of the fact that we know the basic dates when this stuff happened, and that stuff is out in the public domain,
Right.
and it would be easy to find that out, and she
Right.
doesn't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, and we can all respect that, and especially because these additional stories, there is a continuity. They all seem, like you said, very similar to one another in their kind of otherworldliness and weirdness and the behavior of Sam. Even though
Yeah,
his appearance changes over time, I think that's fascinating. That when he showed up in a more populated area, he appeared more human and was wearing different clothing and couldn't stay as long. It speaks to me that
Yeah,
maybe being able to shapeshift on some level, but it take being a
yeah,
very big strain on him, so he has to
yeah,
yeah, right?
yeah. It's really interesting stuff. And um, one thing that, as I said, there are all these little sort of details. And the other thing that struck me is when she recounted the story. Um, she recounted it in in it's hard to describe. It wasn't like the story hadn't changed, so there were some differences, but you'd expect minor differences because she told her father, who then took that and wrote it down, and then that was taken and edited and then put, so you have this
Hmm.
change. So her encounter, her description is slightly different, and I've also got the transcripts of the interview because there were interviews with the kids, and I've got the transcripts of the interviews with the kids, and they absolutely stack up. There's these. It's very, very interesting, um, and I mean, I said in my talk, you know, everyone needs to decide for themselves what, whether they believe it or not. Um, but even the most skeptical of people have to look at it and say, something. It may not be what they described. It may have been, few kids with active imaginations, but something happened. And this goes right back to us saying, these are
Yeah.
real people
Yep.
with real lives, real, and some of them are, some of them are still alive.
Well, now you say kids. Are you referring to uh, the young man in the story as well,
Yeah.
or
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah.
so you interviewed him as well?
No. 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 I didn't interview
Oh,
him, but I
okay.
had the transcripts.
Oh,
I've got
all
a
right.
copy of the transcripts from his conversation. No. 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 I've never
Okay.
met him.
All right.
I don't even know his real name.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify. So the transcript from
Yeah.
the original. Yeah. Um, all right. Now, with your background in folklore and history with the Isle, the, I guess it's kind of a silly question because we did cover it a little bit already. But does Sam as a personage kind of have any resonance with other folkloric things you've encountered in looking into the history of the Isle? Is there anything that sticks out as being very similar from medieval times on as an
So
entity?
yeah, I mean there are all sorts of strange and weird stories from the island. There's lots of documented cases of people sort of stepping into. Uh, there's like a sea fog that quite often will, this time of year, blows over the
Yeah.
island, and people step into that, and then they say that when you step in there, you don't know when or where you'll come out. So you may come out last week. You
Right.
might you don't know. You just don't know. And so there's that. There's a very heavy tradition. There's also quite a big tradition of time slips and other places being viewed and seen on the island.
Hmm.
So there's not an unusual thing. And there's encounters with strange creatures, and from um sort of monsters, and um or just odd people. Um, so it's not unusual.
Right.
There are lots of these sorts of reports. Even um, there's sort of modern as well as quite old stories about these sorts of things. So to me, it feels like you know, Sam not necessarily being extraterrestrial, but being otherworldly, or part of that strange elfin sort of world.
Yeah, I kind of thought of him as being like a nature spirit, sort of, you know, um, some kind of genius loci for that area, but maybe modernized or amalgamated with other strains of creative energy.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of theories, and actually, in my talk, I went through several theories about who he might have been, what it might have been from the very weird to the rational. And what I think is wonderful about Sam and the story is how there's been this adoption of the story, and he's become a like a beacon, a mascot for all sorts of people. The LGBTQ community have adopted him, on the island, and the trans community particularly as well, and but also um, there is there's something there's something comforting about Sam, I think.
Yeah,
He non-threatening. He wasn't the harbinger of bad news. He didn't do anything to hurt anyone. Um, and there's an innocence and a playfulness about him,
yeah,
that I think,
and he seems to genuinely care for Faye, like looking out
yeah,
for her. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And I think, and I think that's great, and I think that's one of the one of the things that people find attractive to the story, as well as just the weirdness of the absolute strangeness of it all.
yeah. I mean, it's right up there with another Isle, the Isle of Man, and Jeff the Talking Mongoose. It's like almost on the same level of
Yeah,
strangeness.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's same sort of weirdness, right? I remember hearing about that story in the 80s as well. I used to have a subscription to all these sorts of strange magazines. There's a Bufora, and there was one called Nexus, and there was one from the US called Omni. Do you remember Omni?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I have some of those old issues. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I used to have subscriptions, so I begged my parents for them,
yeah,
and I used to just devour these things. And I remember Jeff. I thought that was just such a weird and strange story. I loved it.
yeah. And it's like art imitating life, or vice versa. Now,
Mm.
I guess there is a mongoose that escaped from a zoo in the Isle of Man, and they named it Jeff after Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Oh,
So
did
Jeff
they?
is currently running around over there. And
Roams
likewise,
free, Jeff.
yes, and likewise, on the Isle of Wight, was there a new statue installed, some kind of a landmark
There
installed?
was, yeah, yeah, and an artist created a life-size statue of Sam, um, he lives down at the airport.
Oh, wonderful. So it's yeah, right
Yeah,
about where it would have happened is on the edge of the airport.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Although I always got the sense from the story, I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I got the sense that it was a bit off the beaten path where Faye and the young man were like running around, probably not out in
Uh,
the open, like the edge of
no,
the
no, it was,
golf course.
yeah, in the rough.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there were footpaths all around there, so where you can roam around. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
bit in the rough. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay, well, I mean, this is all great. It's really really a blessing to get these new stories. I think it's wonderful, and I think when I first became aware of your work, I had read about you kind of made it a goal with the Sacred Isle stuff that you used to do to re-enchant the world. You were trying to bring like
Yeah,
a sense of enchantment back to the Isle, and I think this is a wonderful way to do that with a modern story.
yeah,
You know, yeah,
yeah. I think it's important. You know, so many in this modern world. It's so important to sort of still have that sense of wonder and weirdness and strangeness. And there's, um, don't get me wrong. I love science and I love the rational and I love because I think the universe is a an incredibly interesting and brilliant place. But also it's also nice to have a little bit of magic and a little bit of the unexplained, right?
yeah, and I think that both can simultaneously coexist. I mean, I think that the truth about reality is probably not only weirder than we think; it's weirder than we have the ability to think.
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
so they can all be true, exactly like you had quipped at the
Yep.
beginning with yeah, remembered differently.
That's right. Yeah. Nothing's made up. It's just remembered differently. Yeah. As I said to you, it's either none of it's true or all of it's true, and I like to think that all of it's true.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, as far as the original encounter site, is there anything there historically that you think
Um,
would be related with pagan beliefs in pre-medieval times?
yeah. So it's a very weird place around there. It's sort of marshy
Hmm.
um and uh you know they're very close to there. There was a um uh an early medieval or actually even it goes back to the sort of Neolithic war crossroads, sort of around that area where there looks like there was a meeting place around there as well. Um, so there were several walkways that went sort of through this marshland, and they met sort of centrally around there.
Hmm.
So the archaeology around there was something special about that place, um, and um, it's but yeah, as I said, it's got a weird feel about it as well. It's kind of there's strange sort of woodland areas that when you go in there, everything sort of goes quiet, and then you have these
Yeah.
moments of weirdness, and then all of a sudden the world changes and you're back to hearing the roads and the planes and whatever else. But yeah, there was this central meeting place, or what appears to be, because there's this crossroads of all these crisscrossing roads around there, and quite close to there is a place. There was a place called the Devil's Stones, where they were, these big old stones that were there, and I can't quite remember the story now. I have to look it up again, but you could um, do something, something to do with bread, baking bread, and something with the stones, and uh, if you did that, you could catch the devil or a fairy or someone like that and grab them, trick them and grab them, and they have to grant you a wish. And this one woman kept doing it, and he got so cross with it that he picked up these stones and he threw them. And now there's these weird stones all around the island from where he threw these the devil stones. So there's like three or four devil stones around the island that
Wow.
were
So are these
supposedly
like
around there.
are they like standing stones, kind of like the rollright stones or something like
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one of them's fallen in the sea now, and
Ah,
another one, but there's a few around. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, that is interesting to consider. I mean, uh, I don't know if it's related to Sam. Poor Sam.
I don't know. Maybe a
And it's
cousin.
yeah, it's funny to me too that you said that. the trans community has kind of adopted Sam because Sam is like one of those ambiguous names. It could be a man's name or a woman's name, and
Yeah, and
it's
I mean,
not
I've
clear if
always,
there is a gender for the entity.
it's not even clear if that's his name,
Right.
right? Sam could be a title
Yeah.
because it's not even clear if that's his name, and it's kind of, it's not even clear, male or female, androgynous um, uh, creature that you know. So yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's great because I mean, if I recall correctly, what he said was, uh, "I am all colors Sam," but there was like a comma between colors and Sam, as though he was referring to her as Sam.
Yeah,
Like,
well, she thought, yes, yeah, they thought he was calling them Sam,
right. And then I think
which of
later he
course,
says that it's just a name he likes. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I guess she never really got further answers about any of this stuff. Then, despite seeing him several more
Or
times. Yeah.
or if she did, she doesn't remember.
Yeah, that was kind of fascinating too. During that longer encounter, it was almost like waking up from a dream where you remember everything and then it kind of softly fades and you only get
Yeah,
snippets. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and I mean the way that she said is maybe she's always felt maybe it's not time for her to remember these things yet, but maybe one day she will.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess that would have been the only time she accepted food or drink from him, right? Because
Yeah,
with the tea,
that's
'cause-
right. Yeah,
yeah, because that's kind of a big no-no if you're dealing with otherworldly entities in a lot of cases.
yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah,
um,
and end up getting stuck with Hades for the rest of your life.
right. But unless Sam was really playing the long game, I think she just had trusted it by that point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is all very fun to talk over, and you had discussed this publicly. You're doing a second presentation of this? I think I've
I
heard.
am, yes,
Yeah,
on
by
where's the
popular
date?
demand.
By popular demand, yes, I'm doing a second one, and I'm actually doing a follow up as well with because I just had too much information. I
Right.
couldn't go through it all in one night. Um, and let me look up the dates. I should have it in my diary, shouldn't I? Um, let's
Were you
see.
thinking about doing this as a virtual presentation so that people outside the Isle of Wight could see it as well? And we're
Yes,
doing it on a podcast. Yeah.
I'm going to film it and then put it up on YouTube.
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the 9th of August is the next one. Um, I think, yeah, so that's half sold out now, and I've got a second, a follow up one on the 1st of November, which I'm saying, hello, are you still there? Sandown Clown Part 2, where we'll go through uh, the stories from the father, also other other encounters from around the world, and some encounters that have come through to me since I did this show. So I did the talk. So there's been um, several people who've contacted me recently
Wow.
to talk through encounters similar, not the same, but similar. Um, Anyone who contacted me claiming to have met the exact same entity, I'm a little bit skeptical of.
Right, right. That makes
But
sense.
but there have been people that have contacted me with similar stories, and there's been about 10 of them. But there's been two that I found extremely interesting because they had some detail in there that I have not released. That
Oh,
actually I got from the interviews with Faye.
hmm.
So there's a similarity there. So those two, and the third one is quite interesting, but I'm kind of on the fence about.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you have enough for a book eventually.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking I'll probably write something for well, if the 14 times will have me, um,
Yeah.
maybe write an article for that, or see test the waters with that first of all, and then go from there. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds great. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to do that. So,
Well, yeah, they might read my writing and think it's terrible. So
oh, well, I've read your writing on your website, and I think it's just great. So, um, I doubt that will be the case. Um, but but yeah, I mean, this is all really great stuff, and I'm so happy that more has come out. I'm glad that you're putting it out into the world now, and I'm really
Yeah,
grateful
I
that
mean,
you came on to discuss it with me.
no,
This
my
went
pleasure.
great. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks for reaching out. Yeah, I fully believe that anything I can make public should be public. I don't believe in gatekeeping,
hmm
um, and holding this information just for me. So the my thoughts are that if I do write a book or something like that, I'll make sure that it's available to as many people as possible for as you know free or whatever. So I'm very everything I do, I kind of give away for free. I'm not very good at monetizing this sort of stuff, but um, I think uh, my initial thoughts is to have a physical book that people can buy, but then maybe download
yeah,
free
yeah,
version of electronic version or something along those lines. Maybe publish it out under Creative Commons or something.
yeah. Oh yeah, and I mean, that certainly would be welcome on my shelves. It would be right at home with all my other weird books. So,
See how we go.
yeah. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, if people want to read about other folklore and history about the Isle of Wight and things that you have available online, where can they go to find that?
They can look at my terrible old website, whitlaw.uk, WHITLOWLORE.uk, or they can follow me on Blue Sky, probably the best place.
Okay,
Um, so at whitlaw.uk, so as I said, WHITLORE.uk on Blue Sky. That's where I publish most of my stuff. That's where I talk about my stuff mostly. Um,
okay,
uh, I find that a nice little platform to talk about stuff.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great. I was going through it today, reading about dragons and stuff, and there's no
Yeah,
shortage of interesting things on that island and in your writings about it. So,
yeah. There's all sorts of dragon stories and stories of the guy who turned someone into a tree, and there's all sorts of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
My
All
my
right,
my great grandmother used to say you can't go around a corner on the island without meeting a ghost. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like my kind of place. I'll have to make a journey out there someday. Um,
yeah, if you do, let me know, and I'll take you to all the weird places.
wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Paul. It's been a lot
My
of fun.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.